If you want to know what the World Cup has for the Africans and what Africans need to pay for this global event to take place, stay tuned to this channel. Welcome to the Abundant African channel, a channel where we talk nothing but African news, African views, and African living. In this video today, I want to talk about the World Cup, because I know many of you out there are very excited that the World Cup is coming and you're prepared to go, or maybe already some have left. But I want to share with you my thoughts and feelings about the World Cup, how it affects us Africans and the African continent as a whole. The effect is mostly negatively rooted. So the World Cup presents a deep-rooted systematic socio-economic and social challenges for African players, fans, and local infrastructure. What do we mean by that? Many Africans have a challenge to travel in the world because of the African passport that we hold. And more importantly, if one wants to travel to the US, it's not an easy job. It's not an easy road. You have to go through a lot. You have to struggle. You have to be verified. And all this just to visit the US requires a lot of energy and a lot of travel. So as an African, to travel to the US, you pay a very big price. And what more now with the World Cup? I don't know actually how this will turn out for us Africans. As you are all aware that the World Cup is being hosted by the United States, Mexico, and Canada. That means 3 countries are hosting this World Cup 2026. That means for an African to go to the World Cup this year, you have to pay a lot of money. You have to apply for 3 entry visas. That's a visa to the USA, a visa to Mexico, and a visa to Canada. And I can assure you, this is a big price to pay, not only financially but also energy wise. Yeah, there are a lot of hurdles for an African to travel. And with this World Cup and all what's going on in the world, I don't know how this will turn out to be for us Africans to go and watch this global phenomenon, where as African continent and as African teams, we are lowly rated. We are seen as people who are going to just fill out the numbers, because there's nothing for us. There's nothing for us to win, because there are so many factors that come into play. Firstly, most of our local leagues are poorly run, and the money's administration is very poor. That means even the football federations don't have enough money for our teams to travel. They don't have money to give our players as incentives, as a motivation to go and represent the continent, and also to go far. Morocco was an exception, that they managed to go as far as the semi-finals. But if you look at Morocco and you compare it with other African countries, Morocco is just a different country in terms of football, in terms of its proximity to Europe, and their administration there is completely different with many other African countries. But also Africa as we know it is in many African countries. We live very basic life. Finances are not in abundance, so the players don't really get the thank you or the incentives enough to compare with teams that are based in Europe or North America, where football is a multi-billionaire business. There's so much money that's being put into football. So, and also their infrastructure for training, their grounds, they're all conducive to good football playing. So they have very high chances of outpacing African countries. However, the price is not only being paid by the players, but it's also being paid by us, the supporters. We have to fork a lot of money out to go to these countries and ensure the long flights, the unfriendly visits to the visas. So the price is very huge for us Africans, and I actually wonder if this is justified for us Africans to be attending these football tournaments, especially the World Cup, considering that it's a big hurdle to go there. But regardless of all these challenges, our African teams really play very well and have advantages, or they even play better than other countries. That's why you see, when you have these big events, especially the World Cup, you have football scouts from many countries, especially Europe, scouting for African players. And the sad thing is, they take our future stars, young players, young talent. They take them, they scout them, pay big money, and they take them away from us in the continent. That means once an African player leaves the football leagues or local football leagues, they've left a gap in these football leagues, because then they leave the leagues depleted, and what we get is substandard football, and they go out there and make money and take care of their families, which is a good thing. But the other side of this is, many of these players then decide to stay and start new in these countries and start families there, and once they have families, they have children, and if they are lucky enough, they have children who also have talents to be playing football. These children then, when it comes to international football, they choose to play for these countries that their parents lived in, or countries where their parents have immigrated to. So the African side of these families is taken away, and I've seen so many young players, or even players that have big names now, very competitive players in many European countries, who are playing for these countries instead of their original African country. And if we were to take all of these players that are big stars and they have African descent, and take them and put them in the African national teams, I'm sure Africa then will have a chance to conquer and win this World Cup. And still on African players going to play in Europe and other countries, there's always a conflict between playing for your club and playing for your country. For example, there's always a conflict and some tensions going on when an African player wants to go home and play for their national team, to be on African duty. For example, the AFCON competitions that take place, the biggest footballing event in Africa, where many players face challenges because their European countries don't want them to go and play in Africa, because they say that if they get injured, then the club has to pay for the medication and whatever is needed for this injury to be healed. But also then they pay them salaries while they are not actually playing the football. So many European countries prefer that the African players play for their clubs instead of their national teams. And this is insane. How can I be prohibited to go and play for my home team? This is my life, this is my continent, and it also has to grow. So these conflicts continue, and these are the prices that we Africans are still paying. For a very long time we've been manipulated, we've been used, and this still continues up to this age, where slavery has taken a different route, and we keep paying the price. So as we get ready to go and watch the World Cup in these countries that are hosting this year, bear in mind and reflect on these things that I'm sharing with you. I'm not trying to prevent anyone to go out there and enjoy the most prestigious tournament in football, to get a chance to go and see the players live in the field. But I'm just saying, remember, this happens for the world, but Africa pays a very high price when this tournament takes place. I want to read you something that I found on the internet, that kind of sums up what I've been trying to say. It says, despite producing some of the world's most gifted football players and unforgettable World Cup moments, Africa is still chasing its first FIFA World Cup title. The continent's quest for football's ultimate prize remains one of the most compelling stories. Yeah, so this is what I was telling you, that a very long time African countries been going to the World Cup and always come out with nothing. It's a good experience, but is it worth it for us as Africans to keep going there and take part in this so-called World Cup? Or we should start thinking of our own competition. We have enough money, we have enough talent that is money, that could come up with something that could be total African. I remember Mario Balotelli, who once had an idea about footballers coming together and putting money so that something African can be put across, so that African countries can compete, put enough money, because we have the talents. What's missing is the monetary resources and good administration. So all those who are going to the World Cup, all the best, and I wish all the African countries the best of luck in this competition. I hope you enjoy this video. If you do, please do me a favor and subscribe to my channel, The African Abundant, where we talk nothing but African issues. So I hope I will see you again in another video.